Now, we all know that the NBA is full of legendary players who have made a name for themselves on the court, but there are players who never quite got the recognition they deserved. They got the handles, the shot, and the basketball IQ that can't be matched. They've been putting up insane numbers year after year, carrying his team on his back. Yet, they still are not getting the respect they deserve. It's a travesty, we tell you. We don't really support the term overrated to describe players. And unfortunately, when we hear John Stockton, we think about it. People always say that he couldn't score enough or that his success was solely based off his pick-and-roll partnership with Karl Malone. They also claim he could never lead his team to victory in a championship. But let me tell you something, and John Stockton was a true point guard in every sense of the word. He didn't need to score to make an impact on the game. Just think about it. He holds the record for most assists and steals of all time. Yet, despite these incredible achievements, some people still dare to call him overrated and not one of the top 5 point guards ever. It's just plain ridiculous. Okay, let's check this out. That was the only good thing about Karl. When Karl Malone was on the court, John Stockton averaged 10.8 assists per game. And when Malone wasn't on the court, he still managed to average 9.6 assists per game. So basically, there isn't a huge difference in Stockton's passing ability, whether Malone was there or not. Now let's talk about defense. Stockton is up there with some of the best perimeter defenders of all time, like Kidd and Payton. It's crazy how people overlook his defensive skills in these debates. And yeah, obviously, his assists and numbers went up when he had someone like Malone to pass to. What else was he supposed to do? Should he have found another way to win? Let's give credit where it's due. Malone benefited from having Stockton just as much as Stockton benefited from having him. They were an incredible duo, and we shouldn't downplay their greatness. Carmelo Anthony is one of those players who always seems to be the subject of discussion regarding advanced analytics. Since entering the league in 2003, he has consistently proven himself as one of the top scorers. Many argue he should have won the Rookie of the Year award over LeBron James. During his time with the Denver Nuggets, they were consistently a playoff team, thanks to Carmelo's contributions. Then came his years with the Knicks. He experienced some of his best scoring seasons in New York and even led a struggling franchise to the playoffs, ending their 20-year drought without a playoff win. However, for some reason, this still wasn't enough for those obsessed with efficiency and percentages. What happened to value, impact, and versatility? Those who watched Carmelo play understand how special he was on the court, and that's how he should be remembered, not by meaningless advanced stats. It's crazy how underrated Ben Simmons is in the NBA, all because of his weak jump shots. Since joining the league, fans and media have been on his case. Let's not forget though, that this guy had an amazing college career that led to him being drafted first overall in 2016. Sure, his performance in the league hasn't been mind-blowing, and many people are quick to call him overrated. Let's give credit where it's due. Simmons may not be the best shooter out there, but he's a beast in passing and defending. He's already been selected for 3 All-Star games and even led the league in steals. Not too shabby for a 24-year-old. Can you believe Moses Malone's name is rarely mentioned when discussing the best centers in NBA history? It's truly baffling. Look at his stats. Malone was a 3-time MVP, a Finals MVP, and consistently averaged over 20 points per game and 12 rebounds per game throughout his entire career. Yet, he never seems to get the recognition he deserves among the all-time greats. Some argue that his shooting efficiency keeps him from being considered one of the greatest centers. Sure, he shot 49.5% from the field, while other big men shoot closer to 60%. But does that diminish his impact on the game? What about his rebounding numbers being labeled as stat padding? Just look at how he led the Philadelphia 76ers to a championship in 1983. With his incredible scoring and a rebounding average of 23.7 points per game and 16.6 rebounds per game respectively. It's disheartening to see that as time passes, Moses Malone fades further into obscurity, a true injustice to basketball history. You might say Russ is one of the top 5 point guards ever, but ask your NBA buddy and they might have a different take. It's unfair how some people judge his career based on one rough season in LA. And let me tell you, the amount of hate and criticism Westbrook gets daily, even when it's not game time, is just enormous. We mean, last year with the Wizards, he averaged a triple-double and led them to the playoffs. But because he had trouble adjusting to yet another new system and playing alongside LeBron, he suddenly became the fall guy. Can you believe that? It's ridiculous that Westbrook was vilified when all he did was ask people to stop slandering his last name for the sake of his children. But we shouldn't be surprised. Most so-called NBA fans are just waiting for an opportunity to attack a star player as soon as they show any signs of decline. The worst argument I hear against Westbrook is that his triple-double record doesn't contribute to winning games. That's not true, considering he wins over 70% of the games when he records a triple-double. Look, we can't say if we've seen the best of Westbrook yet, but can one bad season define a player? Even NBA star Ja Morant has spoken up about how Westbrook is disrespected. He's frustrated that people take his incredible performances for granted. Okay, this guy is on every list, and surprisingly on this list too. LeBron James. The way he handles the ball is like a point guard. His court awareness is off the charts, and his unique ability to lift his team and make them better. Despite all that, people still find ways to diminish his 20-year career and hate on him. Maybe it's because many of us are stuck in the past and can't accept that someone might challenge our favorite player's status as the GOAT. But seriously, it needs to stop at some point. Another reason LeBron James has been receiving a lot of negative comments for speaking out about social issues. One particularly disrespectful comment came from a reporter who just told him to shut up and dribble. While some folks say his path to championships was easy, let me tell you something. LeBron-led teams have taken down 20 50-win teams in the playoffs, including beating a supposedly unbeatable 73-win Warriors team for a championship. So let's give credit where credit is due. Tim Duncan is one of those players that just got under your skin. But let me tell you, he was even better than you could imagine. Yeah, he may have looked slow and unexciting, but he could straight up dominate on both offense and defense. We mean, this guy had 2 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, 5 championships, and so many All-NBA and All-Defensive nods, it's hard to keep count. He deserves more recognition for all that he achieved. And don't even get me started on how tough his road to those championships was. Duncan's teams took down the second most 50-win teams in playoff history, a staggering 23 teams that had won over 50 games. It blows my mind when people suggest Kevin Garnett would have been better if coached by Greg Popovich and drafted to the Spurs. Didn't Duncan thrive from day one on the court? Clyde Drexler had a pretty under-the-radar NBA career, and it's a shame he wasn't recognized outside of the Portland community. He played in a smaller market in the Northwest, far away from the basketball hotspots like Harlem or Venice Beach. When Drexler finally won a championship, some people attributed it to the fact that his rival, Michael Jordan, was retired and playing baseball at the time. The Houston Rockets didn't show much respect for Drexler when they chose Rodney McRae over him in the draft. While McRae had a solid career as a defender, he didn't come close to matching Drexler's skills. In the late 80s and early 90s, Drexler had exceptional seasons, with an average of at least 27 points per game, and led the Blazers to the finals in 1990. It's also unfair to say that Hakeem Olajuwon carried Drexler during their championship run in 1994-95. Throughout the playoffs, Drexler consistently contributed with an average of 20 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 5 assists per game, and even better numbers of 21.5 points per game, 9.5 rebounds per game, and 6.8 assists per game in the finals. These statistics show he wasn't just riding on someone else's coattails. Yeah, that's it. So next time you debate the greatest players in NBA history, don't forget about these guys. It's about time they get the recognition they deserve. And we too deserve your recognition. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel